It's like, whenever you see those headlines about controlled substances, it's never, like, for a good reason, right? It's always something kind of dark, it's like straight out of those crime shows.
Yeah, for sure.
But the thing is, most folks don't even think about the flip side, the whole, like, responsible, essential, and honestly kind of complicated process of making sure those substances are, dealt with and disposed of the right way.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today with GIC medical waste disposal.
Right.
They're all about this specific area, and from what I'm gathering from your research, it's definitely not as straightforward as just, like, chucking it all in the trash.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
The thing that makes controlled substance disposal so, like, tricky is the sheer risk that comes with it.
Mm.
You're dealing with meds that have, a high possibility of being abused or diverted.
Yeah.
If those things end up in the wrong hands, even by accident, the consequences can be, well, pretty serious.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking about being environmentally conscious here. There's a real public safety thing going on.
Exactly. And then on top of all that, you've got this whole web of regulations to navigate, like the DEA, for example.
Right.
They have these incredibly strict guidelines, and you have to follow them, like, to the letter. It's
Yeah.
not something you can just, wing it on.
So high stakes, super tight regulations. What does that actually look like in practice? How does GIC handle all of that?
So they really seem to, like, really double down on that chain of custody thing.
Okay.
Their process, it all kicks off with secure collection, which, yeah, might sound obvious on the surface,
Yeah.
but you'd be surprised how often that very first step is where things go south, with other folks.
Interesting. So they're all about getting it right from the get-go. What happens after that?
Next up is super meticulous tracking.
Okay.
And I mean meticulous, like seriously. They have a whole system for keeping track of literally every single item, which makes total sense, considering all the regulatory eyes on this stuff.
So we're not talking about, like, sticky notes on a fridge here, more like spreadsheets on spreadsheets.
Exactly. It's got to be down to the milligram.
Wow.
And finally, you've got the actual disposal part.
Right.
Now, the nitty-gritty details, those are understandably kind of vague in the stuff you sent over, probably for safety reasons, I guess.
Yeah.
But they hammer home that it's all about complete, total compliance with every single regulation.
So they're taking on the responsibility of staying totally up to date on all those regulations, which, let's be real, are constantly changing so their clients don't have to.
Exactly. It's about giving them that peace of mind, knowing that a whole team of pros is handling this sensitive stuff every single step of the way.
Okay, so we've got the what and the why behind how GIC does things, but let's, I guess, dig into the why behind the why, Like, their website, they list out a bunch of key benefits, and I'd love to get your take on them. The first one they talk about is secure handling. Basically, hey, no funny business going on here. But in this world, what does that actually even mean, really?
Well, it means they've got, like, really strong security measures in place at every single point.
Yeah.
Remember, we're talking about substances that, well, they're pretty sought after on the black market,
Yeah.
right? So it's not just about, like, preventing someone from accidentally messing up. It's about actively making sure no one can steal this stuff or, divert it to the wrong places.
Right, that makes sense. So secure handling, it's really about minimizing risk, both for GIC and whoever they're working with. What about this whole compliance thing they emphasize? They make a big deal about handling the whole legal side, which I'm sure their clients love, but what's the actual advantage that brings to the table?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, the rules and regulations around controlled substances, they're changing all the time.
Right.
You got to have a team that not only knows what those changes are, but also, like, how to actually navigate them without any issues.
It's like having a whole legal team dedicated to your medical waste, basically.
Yeah, basically. It takes a massive load off of, healthcare providers.
Yeah.
They can just focus on what they're good at, which is, taking care of patients.
Right. So peace of mind for the client, less risk, and it just makes the whole process way smoother and more efficient for everyone involved.
Makes sense.
Okay, so the next thing on their list is public safety, which, yeah, we touched on it a bit, but what makes this stand out to you as, like, a core benefit?
Well, it shows they get the bigger picture, It'd be easy to just, like, focus on what the client needs right now and call it a day.
Yeah.
But GIC, they seem to understand that disposing of this stuff responsibly, it has a ripple effect. It's about keeping the whole community safe.
It's not just about getting rid of waste. It's about making sure that waste doesn't end up hurting anyone. It's subtle, but it's, like, a really important difference.
Totally. It's about recognizing that these substances, they don't just magically vanish, They have a whole life cycle, and managing that responsibly, that's crucial.
It's almost a sense of like shared responsibility.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay, and the last benefit they highlight, customized disposal strategies. This one's super interesting to me because it seems like they've got a really personalized approach. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it points to that customer-centric approach again, which, like we've been saying, seems to be a big theme for GIC. It would be way easier to just offer a one-size-fits-all kind of solution. But in this industry, everyone's got different needs. Flexibility is key here.
So a small medical practice is going to have different things they're worried about compared to like a huge hospital, right?
Exactly. Being able to adjust their services to fit each client's situation, that's a real advantage.
It's about understanding the little things that make each client unique, not just treating them like, another number.
Right. It's more like a partnership than anything else.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, so we've dug into these benefits, and it seems like this keeps coming up, this whole thing about really getting the client and what they need. But let's go beyond just what they say they do. What makes GIC genuinely different in this field, like from your expert perspective?
One thing that hits me right away is their experience. They've been doing this for like decades. That means they've been through all the changes in regulations, seen trends come and go. Most importantly, they've learned from it all.
Yeah. It's one thing to talk about following the rules, but it's a whole other thing to have actually been doing it for decades, right?
Oh, totally. Imagine, suddenly there's this big change to the regulations about how to dispose of a certain controlled substance. A newer company, they might freak out a little, trying to adapt, and that could put their clients at risk. But GIC, they've seen it all before. They've probably already got the procedures and systems in place to handle it smoothly.
So that experience translates into being prepared, being able to see those challenges coming, and knowing how to adapt. What else about their approach is different?
Their whole no contract thing is pretty wild, actually. I mean, in this industry, everyone wants you to sign a long-term contract. It's just the norm.
It's definitely not typical. Why do you think that is? What's everyone else doing, and what does GIC's way of doing it tell us about them?
Think about it from, a business angle. Long-term contracts, they offer security,
Yeah.
guaranteed income, you know how much work you're going to have. The fact that GIC doesn't do that, it says a lot about how much they believe in their own service. They're basically saying, we're so sure you're going to love working with us, we don't even need to lock you into a contract.
That's a pretty bold move. Got to give them that. And it circles back to that whole customer first approach again, right? They're letting the client decide.
Exactly. It shows they're flexible, and they're more interested in building trust by giving you great service than forcing you into something.
It's like they're saying, just try us out, you'll see.
Yep, pretty much. And then there's their plant a tree thing.
Mm.
At first glance, it might seem kind of small, like a nice gesture, sure.
I'll admit, when I first saw that, I was like, okay, that's cool and all, but how's planting trees related to, like, getting rid of medical waste?
It's about recognizing that this industry has a footprint,
Yeah.
Like, they're generating a lot of waste by the very nature of what they do. Planting trees, it's a way for GIC to actively try and balance that out. It's a small step, but it shows they're thinking about sustainability in a bigger way.
So it's not just about disposing of things the right way. It's about actually trying to do some good in the world, too.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about going above and beyond, not just doing the bare minimum, but actually trying to make things better.
It's like they're taking responsibility not just for the waste itself, but for being a part of the whole system.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I think that's something really important to remember from all of this.
Speaking of remembering, we've gone over a lot today. So for anyone listening who's like thinking about how they deal with controlled substance disposal now, what's the one thing you really hope they take away from this whole conversation?
I'd say don't just look at the surface.
Yeah.
Don't just go with the cheapest option or whatever. Experience matters, and so does finding a company that truly gets what's important to you. It's easy to get caught up in the regulations and logistics, all the technical stuff, but when it comes down to it, it's about trust.
Trust that the company handling this stuff understands how serious it is.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
You want to find a partner, not just someone who checks the boxes, but someone who gets it, who's on the same page as you when it comes to safety and responsibility.
So it's bigger than just making a problem go away. It's about finding a company that sees the bigger picture, just like you were saying.
Exactly.
Man, this has been really eye-opening. I feel like we really got into it today, went beyond just the basics, and uncovered a lot about an industry most people don't even think about.
It's been great, really. These conversations are so important, shining a light on these essential services that, yeah, most of the time, people have no idea about.
I'm with you on that. And for everyone listening, we hope this deep dive gave you a new way of looking at controlled substance disposal and how important companies like GIC are in making sure it's all done safely and responsibly. And hey, if this got you thinking, don't stop here. Keep digging, ask questions, and never forget that even when it comes to getting rid of something, you can still make responsible choices. Until next time, keep diving deep.